I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Vasja Zupan, President of Matrix Exchange. Vasja, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hi. Thank you for inviting us and inviting me to the interview. So thanks.
You're very welcome. The regulatory environment and the whole environment of centralized exchanges and cryptocurrency and decentralized exchanges is rapidly changing, especially with different countries around the world having different regulations. I'm really excited to dive into Matrix today. I would love for you to kick off our conversation with a high-level overview of what you and your team are working on at Matrix, and then we'll dive into the details.
Yeah, great. Let me give you a little bit of background about Matrix, and I do agree with you to start with that the regulatory environment is changing rapidly, which is really good for the industry. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of noise involved, which we can discuss at a later stage. But in terms of Matrix, we are a regulated cryptocurrency exchange, to make it in kind of plain language. As a matter of fact, we are regulated by FSRA of ADGM. We have a MTF, so Multilateral Trading Facility license, and custodial license in ADGM in Abu Dhabi. ADGM is a free zone with their own regulation. Back in 2018, they were the first to introduce a crypto-specific or virtual asset-specific regulatory framework, which they launched in 2018, and Matrix was the first to launch product and to go live, to start accepting customers and trade under this license in mid of last year, approximately. So what we are a cryptocurrency virtual asset exchange. We are targeting more professional, more institutional, high-net individual customers. So we are not directly addressing retail, although we can accept retail customers as well. So we do offer both, but our focus is on the institutional side. Currently, we are offering the first four approved products from the FSRA side, but we are also the first to add additional product. Just a couple of weeks ago, we introduced two more cryptocurrencies, two more virtual assets to our platform, and we are in the process of adding additional 30, which will be all the first under ADGM, in the ADGM under FSRA's supervision. And just to put it in the context, compared to some other exchanges, even the regulated ones, we have a really detailed and in-depth process prescribed by the regulator, required by the regulator to add any new product. So we need to make an assessment of the product. There are certain criteria which they prescribed in the regulation that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. On top of that, they would do it themselves as well. They would go as far as calling the teams, where there are some teams involved in launching the product. And they also ask for independent third-party verification of the product in terms of volumes and all the kind of concentration of assets and so on and so forth. So much really a rigorous process to go through.
Definitely, and it's a good thing for the industry, because before it seemed like the Wild West, and it's hard to tell if the volumes are real or if you're trading in the right exchange. And to make sure that you're following all the regulations, I think brings a lot of a sense of security and safety for those traders. And you also mentioned there, Vasja, about targeting more institutional investors, high net worth investors. I'd love to dive a little bit more deeper into the exchange and just talk about the different products. And you mentioned there, you have to sort of verify, go through a lot of different steps when you're introducing new products. Often people think exchange, okay, I can do spot trading, or I might be able to do some kind of futures or derivatives or something like that. There's also NFTs, and exchanges seem to be adding more and more products. Where is Matrix at with the main products that they're delivering right now?
Yeah, that's what you are saying about security and safety of the customers. It's absolutely right. The process that we go through just kind of enables us to offer a more secure, more controlled environment, but that also comes at the cost compared to, like, let's say, non-regulated exchanges that can throw anything on the market at any time. Mm-hmm. But there is much less of a kind of guarantee or much less of certainty about the product itself, about volumes and so on, what you said. Currently, we are offering a plain, simple, vanilla spot exchange, so spot trading. We are already started working with the regulator to, in the future, to introduce derivatives, futures and options. We are working in both directions for both of those products because we believe those are needed for a professional trader, again, in a super regulated, super secure, super controlled environment. We are also offering currently, like just as I said, like just six assets from Bitcoin to Litecoin, XRP, and so on. You're kind of the most expected top of the line products. Extending those will be next step. And in coming weeks, we will be also introducing the first in this regulated environment, the OTC kind of RFQ product, where the customers will be able to trade bigger blocks in single trades. Will be connected to the biggest liquidity providers globally, to 3 to 5 of them, and by presenting the best quote for request, we will enable those customers to efficiently and safely trade bigger volumes. That's important to us because as we are targeting more professional, high net individual, institutional clients, that's the product that they need, and especially in the region where we operate. So in UAE and Middle East, there's a lot of wealth, there's a lot of investors, and they need to do that much more than just kind of small, high frequency trading.
Definitely, and great point about the block trading as well. When I see retail traders looking at coins, they often just go to the markets and look at which exchange has the highest volume, and volume most of the time means there's more liquidity, but of course with unregulated exchanges, volume doesn't always equate to that if there's wash trading or other different techniques going on to increase the volume. Do you see volume as a very important factor for the spot trading on Matrix?
Yes, I do. There's some kind of noise in the background. Is that okay? It stopped. Sorry. The volume is definitely important. Liquidity by itself is important, but the volume itself doesn't tell you the quality of liquidity. So it's much more important to look at the structure of the market, the structure of the order book. In our case, we have professional market makers on board currently providing liquidity. We are adding more as we are adding more products to increase the depth, to increase the quality of liquidity. As said before, big blocks are meant to frictionless get best possible price for the trade that you want to do in bigger chunks, which also enables investors who are just want to dedicate some part of their portfolio into virtual assets. They are not necessarily that common or that accustomed to slippage and all these things. They can use big block trades to get the best price that they could get for the trade they want to do. But besides volumes, there's another, like talking about volumes, there's, of course, in the past, there was a lot of talks of fake volumes. There was a lot of talks of spoofing and so on. So it's like there's a lot of activity on the market, which in the, let's say, traditional regulated environments were not discussed yet so much, because the regulators in Europe and US, as far as I'm kind of familiar with, in crypto space, they were mostly focusing on AML and KYC aspects of the regulation. Here we have a different situation. The regulator is plugged into our market directly with their market surveillance tools. So they are monitoring the market 24/7 for any potential market abuse. And of course, any fake volume attempt would be on top of the list of alerts popping up immediately. We would be able to detect that by our own tools. The regulator would detect it as well, and we would kind of course, prevent it by whatever needs to be done with the involved clients. On non-regulated exchanges, there's huge risk for being treated unfairly by other traders or by exchange itself, because all of them have their own trading desks, and you don't really know what's happening in the background. And this is something which environment as we have enables to protect customer against, and this also opens the doors to big investors, to investment funds, to institutions to get involved, because they just cannot afford to place $100 million into a trade where they don't really know who's on the other side, when they don't really know how the price is being shaped, who is shaping the price in the position, who is aware of the margin points and the spot and so on. So these are the things that we as a super regulated environment enables to do. And I'm super bullish about that, because I know in the of course, in the beginning, the retail was necessary to get in for the first innovation, for rapid development. All this volatility, even speculation, kind of pushed the development and pushed the market ahead. But to get it really mainstream and to bring proper institutional money on the table, which I think is still not there, is still only slowly testing and coming, you need environment as Matrix in order to enable the market to grow further, and I'm sure it will.
Mm-hmm. Great point, Vasja. And we've talked a lot about the regulation and about the zone. Obviously, having a regulated exchange is a must-have green check now. But with Matrix also being in Abu Dhabi and having these special economic zones, and the UAE seems to be an area that many crypto companies are moving towards. Maybe you can talk about that area and moving forward with Matrix growing, and just the UAE area in general for crypto regulations. How do you see the crypto world sort of growing with that area over the next year and years to come?
Yeah, I fully support. I'm really happy that Dubai is also introducing their own kind of framework, also on the central government level, not just on the free zones, which is really encouraging, because this will further enable the industry to grow. So I'm more in favor of competition and this kind of growth, because everyone will benefit for that. I think there is enough space for multiple players, not just for one, and I'm sure the virtual assets will play a significantly important role in the region, because of all of the economic development that's going on, all of the financial development and services in the region. It totally makes sense to bring that on board as well. But one thing we also need to be aware of, that currently there's quite a lot of noise, which kind of prevents us to really see what is going on in the background. Just for the announcement that we've seen in recent weeks about people having some kind of in-principle approvals and people having licenses in Dubai. Actually, the Dubai license, the World Trade Center license, is not existing yet. The regulation is not published yet. It doesn't exist. So it will take quite a lot of time before we all get there. Just for the illustration, the Matrix needed 2 years, more than 2 years, to get from in principle approval, where someone says, okay, fine, you can go ahead, but then they give you this kind of list, hundreds of points of that you need to fulfill, and then you can go live. So that's a big distinction. And the other thing which I always recommend, especially to retail investors who are not familiar with the industry, be careful with whom you are actually signing the contract when you are signing up on the platform. Because someone might claim, oh, I'm regulated in Dubai or I'm regulated in Abu Dhabi, but then when you onboard, you are actually onboarding on some kind of, island somewhere in either Seychelles or something else, some totally different entity, and that doesn't give the same security as the regulated entity. It's just, if the name is the same, it doesn't mean it's the same thing. This is something that I've noticed has been around a lot lately, and unfortunately, especially retail investors are confused and sometimes deceived in the way that it's presented.
Definitely, and great point, Vasja. You're right about the regulation there, and that they often set up multiple entities, and you really need to double check, because your funds are on the line if you're going to deposit them in an exchange to be traded and share the private keys. Now, we talked a lot about the regulation there and how the economic growth is just exploding in the UAE region. I'm curious if you can also touch on, with all this growth, needs to also come sustainability and hopefully green initiatives and other ways to give back and make sure that we're not taking too much that we can't give back as well. Is that something that Matrix is a part of, and the regulatory area in this region?
Yeah, we are closely looking at this space as well, and I myself I'm great supporter of sustainability. I was like, just for illustration, I first came across Bitcoin in, like, I think it was 2012, 11, sometime that time. I was looking at the white paper and everything, and I thought at the time, oh my God, this is consuming so much energy. This is not good. So I left it aside for a couple of years, unfortunately, before returning then in 2014 to the industry back in a different kind of project. But honestly, I do believe that in this space currently we see positive development for Bitcoin, for crypto in general, even proof of work products to be green, environmentally to work in a sustainable approach, sustainable manner. Just to give you an example, like UAE has a huge demand for electricity, but only for part of the year. Like, it's super hot. You have 45 degrees, humid, so there's no way to survive without AC. You need air conditioning on, but only for the part of the year. In the summer, in the winter, it's actually quite chilly sometimes, so you switch it off. So you have this big spike, big differences. Also, day and night, there's a big difference. But if you want to produce this kind of energy, you need, I don't know, nuclear power. In UAE, I think they just switched on the second generator, the reactor, some weeks ago, so another plant. And in those cases, you cannot just dial it, switch it on and off anytime you want. It's much more sustainable. It's much more economic to just keep it running. You cannot just switch it off if there's a day which is cooler and there's less air conditioning on. So in that way, economically, what you can do, you can, for example, invest that kind of surplus of energy into mining. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin is energy, like value is energy. This is like that's kind of the equivalent that we can take. And if you can store this energy in the form of Bitcoin, that's also beneficial. And you are not necessarily doing anything bad, because otherwise the same electricity would be produced, but it just wouldn't be used. It would be basically dumped immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great story there, Vasja. And that was my first thought, was mining Bitcoin in a sustainable and renewable way. And I feel like more countries are going to do the same. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that progresses. Now, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to talk about the next steps moving forward for Matrix. You know, there's so many different things to continue to do as you continue to grow the exchange. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, part of the roadmap for the next 6 months and what you're looking to bring out on the exchange?
Yeah, so we are focusing first on the basics to catch up with additional virtual assets. So more products, more pairs. Derivatives will come towards the end of the year. And then we are also started to look at NFTs. So NFTs are one thing which the regulator has just published a consultation paper a couple of weeks ago, and those are covered. So we'll be able to produce to develop a platform for that kind of product. We are also looking at ETFs because we see demand in the region. We see demand globally for that. It's, again, talking about the institutional investors for whom, depending on the mandate they have, their kind of white paper of the fund, how this is governed. Sometimes ETF is easier to enter into new asset class than going straight to the spot trading and even holding it yourself with keys. So us having already this spot platform, of course, and the custody combination of those, expanding to these new products, this is the way to go.
Oh, great. I'm looking forward to that. And for the viewers to start doing the spot trading and to follow along with these announcements, as you mentioned, as they roll out on Matrix, what is the best way for them to learn more and get involved in the exchange?
Yeah, so obviously we have our website, matrix.co. We have also the social media places where we are regularly publishing blogs. You can find us on Twitter and on LinkedIn, specifically because we are focusing to a more institutional, professional customer. We are focusing on LinkedIn, we are focusing on Twitter, and we are kind of not diluting on other social media, but we are regularly posting blogs with all kind of interesting information from sustainability to market trends.
Great. Thank you so much, Vasja. I will leave those links in the description box below. All the best with everything Matrix moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thank you.